How many people here are from a medical sciences background? Just have a look around and see the mix we've got here. So there's way too many of them. History. Anybody from history? There's one guy up the back, very proud. Psychology, social work, a handful. Education. Anybody from a clinical background? So I'm presuming nursing, physiotherapy, occupational therapy. Anybody I've left out? Scream out.
Law.
Law. Okay.
Architecture.
Architecture.
Business and banking.
Sorry?
Business and banking.
Business and banking. Get to know him. And anybody else we've left out? Vet science. They're always useful too.
Philosophy.
Now they're the people you really want to latch on to. So I'm going to talk to you about the MMI and tell you how to do it. One of the first things to take into account is when you look around the room and listen to the vast backgrounds that you all bring. In medicine and in dentistry, you're going to meet an extraordinary array of people. And our task in the admissions committee is to identify some of the important characteristics that will help you to become good doctors and good dentists in the future. Acknowledging at the same time that you're all different and we don't want people to be all the same. So the first thing to remove from your thinking about the MMI is that we're looking for people who think the same, talk the same. That's not what we're about at all. In fact, a colleague of mine who's a surgeon, this is a little example of the different ways people think about medicine, who is a surgeon, came and saw me a couple of years ago and said he was very worried because his private practice was going down the tube. He was not getting patients referred, and he said, I think it might be because I'm one of those surgeons who doesn't really like to talk to people, and when I do, they don't much like the way I talk to them. And I said, you are a pretty shit communicator. And he said, I was hoping, is this too no good? It's all right so far. You'll tell me if I overstep. Bruce will tell me if I overstep. And so he said, so what can I do about it? And I said, come and we'll have a coffee. We sat down and we chatted. And we talked about a couple of strategies about how he is a surgeon. And surgeons, of course, are people who wander around with hammers. And they're thinking, I can fix things, I can help people by nailing. And if you're Velcro, go away. If you're screws, I don't do screws, I do nails. And so they're people who have a skill, and the way they help is to use that skill. And so they're not interested in anything outside that range. So we talked about strategies, and then I said, before you go, you might like to take this article. This is a research article. It's a randomised trial. The paper is called 40 Seconds of Compassion. In this study, they filmed a real interview between a surgeon and a patient who both consented. The surgeon was telling the patient that her cancer had recurred and she would need new surgery and new radiotherapy to deal with that recurrence. And he took some 20 minutes for that conversation. Then they filmed an extra 40 seconds where the surgeon actually touched the patient on the shoulder and said, I know you're very worried, I know you're very frightened, but we're in this together, we're working as a team, and we'll be looking after you. And he did that for 20 seconds at the start of the consultation, 20 seconds at the end of the consultation, and they just added that footage to the video. Then they showed these two videos, one 20 minutes just talking straight, one 20 minutes and 40 seconds with the 40 seconds of compassion. And they showed that to groups of patients and their families and asked them to rate the surgeon in both cases. The surgeon with the 40 seconds of compassion won hands down on every parameter. The patients were less anxious at the end. They rated themselves less anxious. They rated the surgeon a better communicator. They thought he would be a better clinician, a better surgeon. So I gave this paper to this colleague of mine, and he took it away, and I heard nothing for 3 weeks. And then he rang me and he said, when you told me about that paper, I thought, this is bloody psychological crap. And he said, but it's amazing, Stewart, I've been using that ever since with every one of my patients. It works a treat. And I thought, well, there you go, you can actually win. And then he said, the best part is I've got it down to 28. So, you're all different. We actually embrace that difference. We embrace the difference you bring in your disciplines. We embrace the difference you bring in your personalities. We embrace the differences you bring in the way you think. All of those things are essential to be good doctors and good dentists. So what we're looking for in the MMI, because we know you're bright, you've already done very well in a GAMSAT, you've already got a high GPA, and the MMI is the last hurdle. And what we're looking for is just get you to talk to us about issues that are likely to come up in your clinical practice. Issues around global health, around your individual dealings with patients, around your dealings with each other. You can look on the web and you can see the range of questions that we'll be asking you about. It's about ethical reasoning, it's about resolving conflicts, it's about how you think through an issue and how you come up with a strategy for managing it. There are some courses on doing an MMI. I would suggest you save your money. There have been some studies that show people who attend courses to practice an MMI are being admitted at no higher rate than people who don't attend courses. My advice to you, and I'll come back and repeat this again, is just practice talking to your family and friends about issues that you read about, that you hear about in the newspapers, on television, you hear about in colleagues, things you read on the internet. Practice talking to people about what those issues mean, what your thought is about those issues, how you would approach it if you were asked to make decisions within that area of interest. And the most important thing is don't just talk to your close family and friends because they will probably think about it the same way you do. Talk to people outside that circle so you get a different range of feedback to your thoughts. And what you're doing is practicing talking around these issues and being aware of the fact that you will arrive at one opinion about those issues. Other people may have different opinions. And in the MMIs, what we're looking for is, can you actually talk clearly and articulate a particular position, identify the issues involved, then tell us what you think are the range of other opinions that people might have, and then articulate your own opinion, and then come to a decision about how you might handle that situation. And that's pretty much it. In the MMIs, you'll have 5 stations, and you will rotate every, still 7 minutes, David? Every 7 minutes. And what you're doing is you go into a room, you sit down, in front of you will be a sheet of paper that tells you what the dilemma or the issue is that you'll be dealing with. You read through that, and then you begin to talk. It will always finish with asking you to express your opinion. Then you'll begin to talk to the interviewer who is sitting opposite you. When you've got to a point where you feel you've said everything you need to say about the initial stimulus, the interviewer will ask you a question. Can you clarify a particular bit, take it into a slightly different arena, maybe look at the problem from a slightly different perspective? And that's, by the way, is what you'll do. In the first station, in the very first station, everybody goes and all your brain completely stops and you can't think of what to say. Don't worry, that happens to everybody, including the interviewers. And I say that semi-seriously because we know how important it is to you. All the interviewers are very anxious to be very fair and to give you every possibility of presenting yourself, discussing it in the best possible way. So we want to have people who can articulate and think in a whole range of ways. We want to give you the best possible opportunity. So don't think of the person over there as an adversary. What we're trying to do is get a structured conversation. We want to hear how you think, how you converse. So the interview looks like that. You walk in, you look at the piece of paper, you start to talk about your first reaction to it. Then the interviewer will ask you to clarify some things, take you in a slightly different direction, and you have that conversation. A bell will sound after 7 minutes and you have to walk outside. You go to the next room and you wait until the next bell sounds, you go in and you repeat the process.